I can't.
Can you harmonize?
I can't. Oh my God.
Are you serious?
Yeah, my head is broke. I can't do it. All right.
I'm leaving all of this in. Like,
Wow.
This is amazing.
Yeah, no, I'm too tired to do it.
Welcome
to Scum Team.
If you are joining us for the first time, my name is Seth. This is Jen.
I'm Jen.
It's just us today. It's just mom and dad. Nyah is out being an adult, having a life. And so we thought today would be a great time for us to talk about something that Nyah wouldn't have any insight on anyway. And that is marriage.
Marriage or the one?
Aren't they synonymous? Webster defines marriage as the fusing of two metals together. I'm so sorry. If you've ever watched The Office, you'll get that. Anyway, so this is my office. New set, the couch. Let me tell you about this couch. We have been wrecked on this couch. It's funny that we're sitting here talking today about marriage on this couch because we have had marriage counseling on this couch. This couch used to sit in my pastor's office, and when he upgraded, I upgraded, you know. So this couch, many people have cried bitter tears on.
Oh, yeah.
Both of us included. But we are here in my office today at the church, and it's a little prettier than the house setup. This is a nice little setup here. But Nyah's away, and so it's just mom and dad today, and we're going to talk about all things marriage, relationship, the one, how do you know? That's what I was going to say. This office is where we have college and career. We teach the college and career class, and a huge question we get from those kids all the time is, how do you know which one is the one? And how do you know, I didn't see a good relationship growing up. What does that look like? And what I've found, and I'm sure you agree with this, is that these kids, in spite of some of them having grown up in a two-parent household, they still don't know what a good godly relationship looks like. They are literally come from broken homes, even if it's a two-parent relationship. Just because you have both parents in the house don't mean that it's a good household and that they saw what a healthy relationship looks like. So we get that question a lot. We've done 2 different series on relationships here in the class, but I think there's an easy answer for how do you know which one is the one. And my college and career kids are going to see this one coming, but if you read Matthew 6, it says, seek ye first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. After it talks extensively about all the different things of life, what you'll wear, what you'll do, the food you'll eat. Seek first the kingdom. So I think starting there, if you want a good starting point, is seek God, seek relationship with God before you seek a relationship with another person. We were designed for relationship. We were designed to desire relationship, especially with each other. But so many of us seek that out in a partner or children. You could get in any order that you want, and the truth is that we all have a God-sized hole inside us that only God can fill. And so no matter what you try to fill that with, only God will satisfy that need. But my pastor says, he told me, he's like, I don't think that there is the one, because at the base of it, say we didn't know each other, but we were totally, God devoted, 100%, wanted what God wanted for our lives, and we were like, hey, let's get married, and we were both devoted to it, and we decided to get married, and we both put our all into it. We could make that a successful relationship, because truly at the heart of it, all that a relationship or a marriage takes is 2 people who give it 100%. But going back to the Matthew 6, seeking first the kingdom, if you're so in love with God and one day you meet this person, like, you just know. I feel like.
First off, I do want to say, like, mine and Seth's point of view of relationship is probably different than anybody else's. I feel like in Pentecost, especially in Pentecost, it's such a, you don't talk about it until you're there, and I feel like that's kind of like a disservice, I guess, almost to our kids.
We've tried to break down with
because
our kids.
I don't know, like, if you guys are awake or not, but like certain spirits are really attacking our kids. And so yeah, like when our kids come and tell us, like our college and career, like, hey, if a boy comes up to me and tells me like, I like this girl, I'm happy about it. Like, and parents are just like, what do you know about it? Like, it's a godly feeling. We can't just bury that feeling just because you're 15 or 14.
Well, no, that goes back to what I said, is like, we're designed for
Yeah,
relationship.
exactly. And I feel like because everyone's so afraid of like the I guess I don't know how else to say it other than the sin part, that you could mess up and do something stupid. Like, they just hush that topic altogether. But I feel like that's absolutely wrong. So I feel like our point of view is very different. So yeah, if the truth is that since it's such a hushed topic for our kids, I feel like immediately once they do have a crush, their first instinct is to hide it. They're not going to tell anybody about it, and they're like ashamed, and I don't really get that.
I did. I remember it was like a topic of teasing, that if you liked a girl when you were really young, like they would tease you about it. And so like literally I didn't tell anyone if I liked anyone.
Yeah, and like I know that our beliefs is like we date to marry, and I 110% agree with that. But like if a kid comes and tells me like, hey, I have feelings for this girl, one, very happy for them, cool, great, that's the next step, you know, like God is giving you those feelings to pursue a wife, cool, that's exciting. But I'm not going to sit here and just be like, well, you can't be alone with them, and you can't do this, and all of a sudden God is not, I feel like generations before us has made God look like a hard master, not a lover. And that's the one thing that me and Seth work really hard to like break. Like, if you have those feelings, cool, take it to the king. Like, he will direct your steps, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, too, is everything, and Paul talks about this, like, all things are lawful for me or whatever. Like, everything is wonderful inside the correct context.
Right.
And so I've had young guys come to me and be like, hey, I like this girl, should I pursue it, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, awesome. I'm glad that you're a godly young man wanting to pursue a godly young girl. Let's be clear, there's nothing wrong with that. In today's world, I'm glad for it.
Yeah. I kind of want to throw a party every time.
Yeah, like, great. We're on the right track here. There is nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong with you desiring that. You were created for this. But just as you were created for this, fire was created to be helpful and have benefits for us, to keep us warm, to cook, to provide all these elements of comfort for us. However, I would not take a fire and build it right here. For those of you listening, I'm speaking to like in the middle of the couch. I would not build a fire right here in the middle of a room, because it's not the proper context for it. Fire is wonderful. It's a tool. It can do so many wonderful things, but this ain't the place for it. And so when I talk to them, I tell them that I'm like, desire is God-given. 100%. It's built inside of you to have it, and it's given to you to want to pursue a mate. And that is a wonderful thing. We're not going to deny it. We're not going to pretend that it's unnatural for you to desire a mate. However, the Bible is clear that sex outside of marriage is not what God created it for.
Right. And
so the fire is not the problem. It's where the fire is built is the problem. So if you, at the start of your relationship, are building it in behind closed doors, and you can only talk to this person when friends aren't around, and you're laying the wood down for the fire, like, don't be surprised when you're falling to the temptation, because the only time you guys talk are late at night on the phone. I told my kids, I said, if you are in a relationship, I'm talking to my college and career kids, I told them this. I said, if you're in a relationship, there's absolutely no reason you should be talking past midnight on the phone.
No point.
Like, there's nothing that happens after midnight that is
beneficial,
like godly
yeah.
and holy. Like
you know
set,
what you're doing. Yeah.
Set a curfew and be like, hey, after 11, like, get some sleep. First of all, kids don't get enough sleep. If you're out with friends, if you're at a conference, whatever, that's
cool.
fun.
Do your thing, yeah.
But on a daily basis, like, you ought to have a curfew set for yourselves, not by your parents.
Not by
you're
your
in
pastor,
your room,
yeah.
not by your pastor. Set a curfew for yourselves and be like, hey, after, clock strikes 11:30,
I'm outie.
we need to go to bed and we need to stop talking. Your brain, there's studies that show that your brain at a certain point of tiredness, you let down certain guards. There's psychology will say, like, if you want the truth from someone, like, get them up late at night and ask them questions. That's why confessions come out at sleepovers and all these things, like lock-ins, crazy stuff happens because there's nothing good going on at night.
Mm-mm.
There's no reason you need to be up texting a boy or a girl at midnight.
Mm-mm.
Shut that phone off and go to bed.
And guard yourself. Yeah.
Guard yourself. Guard your heart. Guard your mind. Guard your body. Guard your body.
Yeah.
Set the perimeter for you and don't cross it. But it all comes back to context. So
yeah.
These are wonderful things. Desiring a young man, desiring a young woman is a God-given thing.
Yep.
And so if we can be real for a moment, we all have sexual desire built into us. You should not feel dirty when you start to feel that as a young person. If you look at a young woman and you're like, wow, like,
I'm attracted.
I'm attracted to her.
Cool.
Congratulations. Your body is working as God made it. However, he put that attraction in you to begin pursuing her in marriage. So I would say step one, you're attracted to someone, great. There's a good sign that could be the one. Stop. Full stop. That don't mean they are. I could look at any person in the world and be like, oh, beautiful hair. That is not me. Wow. That does not mean I need to pursue them in any way. I could look at a Big Mac cheeseburger and be like, that looks good to eat. It could be food. That does not mean it is the food that I will eat.
With that being said, all of that, how about we break it down to, like, us? Yeah.
So Jen came into my life when I was 11. We were 11.
Yeah, we were 11. You were 12. I had just turned.
Was it? It was 2014.
I don't know.
I don't know how old I was then. But we were both very young kids. Mm-hmm. I went through puberty at a really young age, so like 9. So it was basically a man at that point. And
okay.
But we became quick friends, I think.
Yeah.
And we didn't like crush on each other right away, but we were good friends. Yeah. And so time goes by, whatever, closer to 15-ish. Our pastor has a rule of dating at 16 because, let's be real, you can't get married until you're 18. You don't really need to date longer than 2 years, in my opinion. I would say, like, that's my pastor's rule. Like, why would you want to date longer than a year? Why would you want to date to be dating? At that point,
that's crazy. Yeah.
You're opening the door, literally.
If you're dating past 2 years, you really don't like them. You really don't like them.
Okay, another tip. Tip number 2. If you can't decide, they're probably not the one.
They're not the one.
Take it how you want to, but I would say, like, if you're like, I don't know, then that's not the one. Because when it's the one, you're going to know.
Yeah, you're going to know. I literally have to beg Seth not to leave me for work every day. And every day is like a fight because that's who I chose. That's who I want to be with. That's who. Yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, so there. Anyway, we as rebellious teenagers I decided to ask Jen to be my girlfriend at, I think we were 15.
I think we were.
And I was like, and she was like, yeah, whatever. We went like 2 weeks, and I was like, do you want to go back to being friends? And she was like, yeah. And not because we didn't like each other. It was just like,
the pressure was weird. Yeah.
It changed our dynamic, and we were just like, this is weird, I think. And
I think at that young of an age, I was just like, I don't know how to talk to him. I kept trying to separate you from my best friend to my boyfriend.
We genuinely liked being friends.
I was just like,
as much
this
as we
is
liked
so weird.
each other.
Yeah.
So we went back to just being friends, and we literally said, like, if it's God's will for us to be together, we'll be together. Mm-hmm. Like, why rush it? Like, if the rule's 16, like, let's wait. So we did. And then, like, almost right after that,
like, literally,
your family went to a different church, and, like, that's not what this podcast is about, so we won't get into that. But they left for a while, And I went through some things in my life. She went through some things separately. We kind of didn't talk for, what was it, about 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
And just didn't see each other. We were young kids at that time. Like, Facebook really
Wasn't
didn't
a thing.
exist. That's weird to
I
say.
know.
Like, we were before Facebook, Instagram, and all that. Social media didn't really exist, so it wasn't like we could be friends and talk outside of that. Also, I came up in the generation where you didn't really have a phone at that age unless you could pay for it. So we didn't really have cell phones where we could stay in touch.
I had a cell phone.
You did, yeah. You were like early on that, but I didn't. My parents weren't like that, so we didn't really have cell phones. Once I did get a cell phone, like obviously I didn't have her number, so yeah, we just didn't have contact. I think during that time though, Facebook was invented, and I stalked you hardcore.
I didn't have a Facebook, so you're lying.
I stalked you through other people's Facebooks. Like I was
Dang.
finding pictures of you.
That's weird.
Yeah, I missed you. Anyway. My journal will attest that I missed you.
Oh, I love his journal, man. Anyway, so then I came back, and like, what's crazy about like really knowing somebody, and like, first of all, I think it's a huge benefit, and not everybody gets the story of like childhood crush turns into the love of your life. But like we do have that. When I came back, like, you were singing on the platform.
I remember this.
And you looked at me like you hated me, so I was like, okay, so he hates me, that's fine. And then we decided to make this like our church home again, which we're not going to talk about.
Another story.
But it was like a couple months, and I would see Seth and how he acted around others, and I knew that something was completely off. I was like, that is not the friend that I had before.
I was mentally ill in it.
Like, and you always kind of were. You were very dark and weird, even as kids, but it was a weird where I knew what was going on, so like, but this was different. And I don't know, I wish I could say like I had the gift of discernment or something like that, but something was off, and I was literally like, what, 16, 17 at the time. I wasn't this.
17.
Yeah, I wasn't like a spiritual person, but something was off. The person that I knew before was not there. And although I felt the attraction, and that's really hard for me to say, but like about other people, I've never really been attracted to anybody else, which is weird. And I know you're going to fight me on that, but it is what it is. But like the feelings were there, but like just watching him for like the next couple of months, I was just like, whoa, this dude is the worst. Like, and I had already, like, God was already working on me on things ways that I grew up with, like, and God was just telling me like, hey, I don't want you to be like that. So like the change for me was happening there. So I was just like, does this dude not pray? And he wasn't.
Did not.
But I couldn't understand why he would be on the platform, and it was just like a lot of like conflicts within myself, like, what's going on? What's missing here? Because everyone was also like, oh, that's just Seth. Like, he's been like that. He's always been like that. And I was like, yeah, I hear you, but this is different. And like, then finally we started talking.
And I think the attraction was immediately there again between both of us.
Yeah.
It was almost like we'd never left, but at the same time, it was very different because we were both very different people, just because of things I had gone through during that period of time, things you had gone through, just Jen for the better, me for the worse, honestly, probably.
Yeah, probably. Sorry.
And I to put it in plain words, I was a jerk. Because of things I'd gone through.
Hurt people.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Hurt people. And I was hurt, and I don't remember clearly, but I felt like it was like I had to prove that I was like cool and I was tough and that you couldn't hurt me. So I felt like I kept this kind of jerk attitude a little bit, to be like, I'll let you get close, but not too close, and then to keep her guessing and you know, it's so stupid, honestly. Like, if you like someone, you can just tell them.
You literally couldn't, but that's another story
that's
for
another
another
story
time.
Too, but for all you other guys out there, if you like someone, just like be clear with the young lady. Like, don't keep her guessing. That's not a fun move. Anyway, so we had our
and it was kind of like
ups and downs.
It was kind of, when we started talking or whatever, like, I kind of was very, 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 like, just reserved because, first of all, like, I have very, very high standards. Last podcast was about personality, and I wish I would have known this back then, but like, my standards have been extremely high. And even though I liked him and I knew that I had feelings for him and all these things, I was not about to settle for a jerk. Like, I was not
Right.
about, like, just to see him like worshiping, I was like, I can't have that. Like, I can't marry somebody like that, and then that's gonna be my kid's dad. I'm not gonna have a backslidden father. And if you're in that situation, I'm so sorry. My heart goes out to you. Like, we're not gonna get into parent situation, but like, I can relate. I know what that's like, but like, I made a choice that I'm not gonna give into that. Like, how he treated people, I was just like, how he treated me, I was just like, I may like you, but I don't deserve that. I deserve better. And not to think highly of myself. It's just,
yeah. So pause there. Tip number 3: science shows that in a relationship, the person will be the nicest for the first 9 months.
like, on their best behavior.
They'll be on their best behavior. That's a good way to put it. For the first 9 months of the relationship. If they are showing red flags in that first 9 months, that is them on their best behavior.
Yikes.
It's not going to get better. And I don't know who needs to hear this. You cannot fix them. If you are in love with their potential, you will be sorely disappointed.
You're always going to stay there.
You have to love the person for who they are, what they are right now, because that's what you're going to possibly get forever. If they have potential, they could grow, which we'll get into in just a minute. But if they don't, then are you okay with being with that person forever? So there's a third sign right there. Are they a person that lines up with your values, with your desires in life, with your goals, with your amount of dedication towards God? If not, and I encourage every single young person, every single person out there to write down a list of your hard limits. Like, if they do this, it is a no, because then when that person comes into your life, we will quickly begin making excuses, because, like, especially if we're lonely, we'll be like, well, they don't meet the whole list, but they're good everywhere else. Don't settle for less than 100% everything that you wanted, and God will give it to you. I believe that 100%. God will give it to you. So we dated,
and Seth took me out on like 2 dates.
They were terrible
for the first year of our relationship.
Honestly, not everything was within my control.
No, it wasn't.
But it's just, it was life, and it sucked.
But also, here's another thing. Like, before we even started dating, like, it was one of those situations where everybody knew that we liked each other except for us. And Pastor would always be like, I wish you guys would stop looking at each other like that, or do I need to step out because of tension? And it's just like, whatever. And then when we both talked to Pastor, he was like, I think this is good. I think that's a major sign. If your pastor is telling you, like, and if you do not have that relationship with your pastor where you care about his opinion,
start today to build it.
Let me tell you, it's rebellion. Pray that out of you. And
you should
things will start looking up.
You should go to your pastor about everything.
Not
we'll just
like,
drop that in there.
Like, I have a headache. Not like
have
that.
A headache. Not an annoying way. In big life decisions, you ought to be going to your pastor. You ought to seek the counsel of your pastor.
Yeah. So, like, and then within that year, it was tough. Like, I mean, and I kind of started piecing things together, and I was like, okay, I think I understand now. Although Seth didn't have the strength or the know-how of how to tell me, I kind of started piecing things together, and I was like, oh, okay, this is much bigger than what I think. And maybe one day we'll talk about that. But I would always keep my pastor updated, like, hey, this is crap. I hate it. And he'd be like, if you could wait just a little bit longer, I really do believe, that it could turn around. Like, he's not a bad guy. Nobody really knew what all was going on with Seth, but everybody saw the potential. And I finally, after the year, I told myself I'm going to give him a year, because my parents were like, how much longer are you going to do this? Like, this is awful. Like, we don't want this for you. And I was like, I hear you, but and I told myself a year, and that's it. That's all I'm giving this dude.
From my point of view, that was like, the best year of my life, because it was like
that's crazy.
the brightest spot in my life at that point was having her in my life, even though I was being so bad to her. It was probably like one of the worst times of yours. But like to me, I was like, this is amazing, like such a breath of fresh air in my life of where I was. And it just wasn't enough. So ultimately she was like, we're donezo.
Because one thing, like, and here's the thing about being in love or whatever and all these things, just caring about another person, like we said the statement, like, hurt people. I wasn't hurt. So even though he was technically hurting me, I could not return the favor. Like, and I think that's what a big thing about love is, that even like it doesn't keep count. It doesn't just sit there and wait.
It doesn't keep score.
Yeah, it doesn't sit there and wait till I can get you back. Like I knew that he was hurting. I knew that he was not okay. But like that whole year, like I tried my hardest to show him, like, hey, you can trust me. I'm here, and whenever you're ready, I'm gonna be here. But then I did tell myself, like, even though I do care for this kid and he's messed up, I was like, I love myself too much to stay here. So I told myself a year, and then after a year did not change. So I went up to him. Remember, we were standing in the back of the building, and I told you, I was like, it's. And then another thing is, I told myself I'm not gonna give him like.
No. The first time you just straight up cut me off.
That sounds like me.
Like zero contact, ghosted me.
Well, shoot.
And it was for like 30 days. Like I'm talking.
Oh yeah, because I did a whole fast for it.
I'm talking like if I saw her, we were in a room and I said her name, like I didn't exist. Let me tell you, that crushed me.
Well, good.
And I fought to gain your
up.
attention again.
I know.
And I finally did. But the point she's talking about, this was after that. To a point, and it was in the back of the church, and she was like, hey, things have to change. And I had gotten such a glimpse of what we could be that I was 100% willing to change anything at that point. Like, I would have done anything to give you... It's our kids. I would have done anything. I would have cut anyone off at that point. I would have done anything to keep you. You were that important to me. And so I looked at you and I said, it will change. I promise it will change.
And it did.
And it did immediately. So sign number 5. What are we on 5 now? If there's something you're asking them to change for the relationship to continue on, and they're giving you excuses and they do not change it, ain't the one.
And here's the thing. You can go into a relationship and be like, oh, well, when they're with me, this is going to change. No, it's not. And also, if it's love, why would you ever think like that? Like, that's one thing, like, I always tell myself, like,
when I was... As far as personality.
Yeah, like, why would you...
They're not going to wear that when they're with me.
When I didn't have to tell him, like, hey, you need to change this. I was just like, it has to change. And then I let him...
These were terms of, like, how she was treated... and other things that we can't get into, like, were going on in my life. And she's like, if it don't change, I'm gone. Have that respect for yourself. Have those limits for yourself. And if those are things that you know about yourself, before you get into a relationship, you're not going to be guessing of whether this person is okay based on, like, you'll know. Like, when I wrote down when I was however old what I wanted in a spouse, that was one of my specifics. That was one of my non-negotiables, and they are not meeting it. Yeah. You may love every other thing about them, but, like, hey, he treats me like crap. He's out. So when it changed and when it got good, it got good.
Yeah, then we spent every day together.
And it was not, I never had to be like, is she the one? So that if you question it, they're probably not the one. And so then went to my pastor and was like, hey, I'd like to marry this girl.
He said, about time.
And he was like, let's get it done. And he's like, I think that's a great idea. And so we got married. And it's been pure bliss ever since.
Why are you laughing?
Because it ain't. Huh? Not being with you, but like.
Hey, we've had
a good. No. What I mean by that is a good relationship takes a lot of work, and everyone's be like, it's 50-50. No, it's 100% from both people. But here's where I would want to speak to the youth of the apostolic movement. Marriage is for real. Jesus was extremely not harsh. He talked about marriage strongly, and the promise that you're making to each other. How do I say that? If your physical desires are the reason you are pursuing someone, like I said, they're God-given and they're in you to drive you to pursue a person in marriage. But if that is the only reason you are with a person and they are overtaking you in that relationship, like, that is not what marriage is about. If you are trying to get with a person purely based off of desire, is what I'm saying, and I think we can all decode what that means. Wrong basis. Because marriage is a promise to love. It is a choice to love every day. There are days I wake up and 100% I don't want to take care of my kids. I'm just being honest. Like,
That's
crazy.
crazy.
I don't feel like I have the energy to cook and to go to work and to do all these things. But it is a choice every day to wake up and be an adult, be a provider, be a man for my, be a husband to my wife, and to be a father to my children. It is a choice, because there are days that I wake up and I feel like I don't want to do it.
That's crazy.
You telling me every day you wake up you just want to clean your house, and you just know you're such a liar.
To clean my house? You know that's my favorite thing to do. Do I get to do it?
Do you want to do it all the time? No. But there's a choice you make of, I want to have a clean home. I want to provide for my children. So it's the same in marriage. There are times when the going gets rough between you and your spouse, and it has to be a conscious choice you make. I'm going to love my spouse. In 50 years, we ain't going to look like this. And I'm sure I'll still be attracted to you. But if I married you simply because of the beauty I saw when we were 20,
that's crazy.
Like, that's going to leave. That beauty, she left the chat. You know what I mean? If I married you because you were, I don't know, like, say you were crazy skinny when we got married, and I married you because of your body, like, the body can leave the chat. 3 children can take a toll on a woman's body. Shoot, it took a toll on my body.
It really
If
did.
you married me because I was young and good looking, like 2 years in, 3 years in, like, I was fat. If you're marrying for looks, if you're marrying
for status,
if you're marrying for money, if you're marrying for all
that's
these things, it's for the wrong reason. And that's written into the vows when you say for rich or for poor. Like, that means if you live the rest of your life 100% broke, are you going to be faithful to that person? If you win the lottery, are you going to be faithful to that person? Money changes people.
Dang.
But we look at that. I think a lot of people look at that day and they're standing there across from each other and they're like, I do forever until death do us part. And they picture death as being like, we got married at 20. We could realistically live to be 100 and have a beautiful 80-year marriage. And they picture this like at the end of the road. We died peacefully in our sleep holding hands, and our children
probably will.
Our children found us, and we died in that night at the same time. You could walk out of that wedding and have a wreck, and suddenly, like, God forbid, but this is a terrible situation, but I've seen it happen. You could get married, and within the next week, that person become like a vegetable. And that falls under sickness. And now the rest of your life is dedicated to caring for a person that is disabled. Do you really love that person enough to do that? And I've seen people make that promise, and then when that person becomes disabled, they're like, I didn't sign up for this. You did.
You literally did.
You literally signed up for richer, for poorer, for better, for worse, to care for that person. Take that vow seriously. Take it with the weight of what it means. Like, forever, like, don't get into a marriage and be hoping they die, so that you can get out of it.
I've seen that happen.
I've heard
here's
people
the
say
thing.
it.
I feel like our marriage, because that's what we can talk about. I can't talk about anybody else's. Beautiful, amazing, best days of my life. But I truly do believe if it wasn't for God, the Holy Ghost, and prayer, we wouldn't have that.
Yeah. A marriage, once you're in it, is what you make it.
And the thing is that every season comes and goes. Like, motherhood changed me, but like our favorite thing to say together is like, or to say is, if we don't grow together, we grow apart. Just continuing to like pursue that person, to please that person, and not in a nasty way, but like I want Seth to look at me to be like, oh, that's my wife. I'm proud of who she is, what she looks like, her personality, her how she
Pause. If you're embarrassed of the other person,
run.
they ain't the one.
They ain't the one. They ain't the one. If you're shushing them every 2 seconds, shut up.
Don't
Stop
say
it.
that. Like if you're not comfortable with who
You
they
are their spouse, not their parent. Calm down.
Don't do that.
Calm
Don't
down.
do that.
Oh my gosh, that is one of my pet peeves.
I loathe being around couples that are constantly, don't say that. Stop it. Don't do this. Like
calm down.
You're
That
making
that is
awkward
not your
for everyone
child.
around
That's
you.
not your child.
No.
That is your man, and you are looking like
chose them.
or that's your female. You chose them. You're looking like an idiot because you don't know how to choose a partner, because you're over there hushing them every 2 seconds. Let them breathe.
Like, Jen don't embarrass me. People
Seth,
say
don't.
people will say she's loud. People will say she's big personality. That does not embarrass me. I love this woman. And I think that leads into another point I wanted to make. When you do say I do, oh, this could be like an 8-part series, literally. When you do say I do, the Bible says that a man shall leave his mother and father and shall cling. They shall become one flesh. The moment you say I do to that woman, to that man, you are vowing to forsake all others. That includes your parents.
Listen, that was such a touchy subject for my household because I come from a Hispanic household. And I don't want to get into detail, but if you know, you know. Hispanic women, they are strong. They're strong. They're strong-willed. They're just leaders, just in nature. And it was so hard for my parents, my mom specifically, to watch me be so submitted to my husband. And I would sit there and tell her, like, Mom, I just don't agree with some of the things that you do. And like, she can tell you that. But like, that was really, really hard for my family to understand. But like, what I had to understand, that even though like it was scary for me because I didn't know, I am a control freak. I'm strong-willed too. I'm a hard-headed. I'm an idiot. I'm stubborn. I'm all these things. And Seth is the most passive, just, yeah, whatever. Like, he used to be depressed. I've never been depressed a day in my life. Like, I could have very much so just taken over and been like, it's this way and this is how we're going to do it. But that's not how God intended it. So like, when I left my family to start a family with him, I told myself like, hey, you're going to be submitted. That's one thing. If you can't do anything else, you're going to be submitted. And like, yeah, leaving your family and becoming your own family, you get to like make your own rules and set your own standards. But I do remember that was really hard for them to understand.
I believe in honoring your parents. The Bible says it. It's in there. It's supposed to
important,
happen.
yeah.
But the moment you say I do, your mother and father now become your extended family.
Yeah.
They are not your immediate family anymore. That woman, that man is now your immediate family. That woman, that man is now bone of your bone, flesh of your flesh. Your allegiance is to them. That means if your mom comes in and gets nasty all up in your bride's face or your husband's face, your allegiance, while you should honor your mother, I don't think you should, punch her in the face or anything crazy. While your allegiance is to your spouse and to protect them, not your mother, your father. That means if your parent comes and gets up in your spouse's face and is telling them how it is, you are no longer bound to your parents. You are to protect that spouse. Some people aren't ready for that.
Yeah.
Some people don't know how to handle that.
Yeah.
And like you, that's your extended family now. Your spouse is the one you protect. I love my parents and they're wonderful, but I've had to have talks with my parents before, like, hey, here's the line with me and my wife. Here's like my allegiance is to you now. You're like, I remember in the early days, like your mom called a lot or whatever, and like we talked. It wasn't a big fight or anything. It was like, hey, like be with me, like you're on the phone a lot with her. Like she is your extended family now. So you're truly forsaking all others. You're forsaking all others' opinions. You're forsaking everything. It is a weighty decision, to the point where Paul admonishes, like, it's better to be single and to be devoted to God than to have a spouse, because your spouse is going to take up a lot of your attention. And that's okay. But, like, if you're not really willing to give everything to that person, then there's another one. They ain't the one.
Mm-mm.
Like, if you're not willing to be criticized by the public for that person, they ain't the one. If you're not willing to be to forsake everyone's opinions and be like, no, I'm going to stand by my man or my woman on a controversial topic, they ain't the one.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not willing to go into debt to take on their debt, they ain't the one. If you're not willing to be flat broke with them, they ain't the one. If you're not willing to get fat with them, they ain't the one. If you're not willing, all these things, they're probably
if they're
not
worth praying for it, they're not the one.
You're not willing to fight for them. My wife has thrown fists over me, and I would throw fists for my wife. If you ain't willing to do that, they ain't the one.
That's crazy to say out loud. Please don't say that out loud.
I know, I'll expose you like that.
That's awful.
Not in many years. She's a Holy Ghost filled woman now, but
yeah,
when we were dating. Anyway, so
yeah.
To answer that question of how do you know which one is the one, you just know. You should know. We've talked about this before. Let God set your identity as a single person and be fully devoted to him. And I promise you, I've heard enough stories to know that, like, it just works out. You just know.
The one, it just kind of turns into, like, it's not a question no more. You're just like, there's literally nobody else.
And
there's
it's
no one
still,
else.
even with the surety of knowing, like, you're the one, it's still a conscious effort to put in the work and say, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be a responsible dad and I'm going to be a responsible husband and provide for you and lead my family. And men, you set the spiritual climate in your home. You are the priest of your household. You don't get days off. You don't get the luxury of waking up and checking out. And I understand mental illness and all that. I was there, but you don't get the luxury. It still falls on you, still on your shoulders. Choose wisely, because
Pray about it.
Pray about it. That's good advice. Pray about it. Ask your pastor about it.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen people be like, tell pastor, like, oh, this is the will of God, and he's like, I don't think so. And then years later, they're crawling back and being like, oh, it all fell apart. And he's just
I
like,
wish he could say, told you so, but he's not that type of man.
How many times has he had the opportunity? Dang.
Anyway,
pray about it. Seek the will of God, and
you're going to be all right.
Yeah. Also, look at who they are, because even in my mental illness, like, I feel like you knew my passion was toward the things of God. I wasn't fully there yet. I had a lot of way to go.
Yeah.
But seek a person that is, if the person's lazy,
literally your helpmeet.
Help me. Yeah. God designed woman to be man's helpmeet. If they're not willing to, like she said, if you don't grow together, you grow apart. If she's not willing to grow with you in all the things of God in your career, like, talk it all out before, like, no, like, hey, are you willing to move across the country if God were to call us?
No.
If that answer is no and your answer is yes, you might not be compatible.
Yep.
If, hey, are you willing to have 8 children? And her answer is no, and you want 8 children?
No.
And then, again, like, if you love that person so much that you're like, I'm willing to not have 8 children for you, that may be the one. Talk it out. No before you say I do, because once you say I do,
it's done.
My message to the entire world: stop taking marriage lightly. It is a forever promise. And when things get hard in the marriage and you're already in it, the D word is not an option. Not in our household. We don't joke about it. We don't play about it. We've never threatened it.
If you leaving, where we going?
You leaving, where we going? That's a good one.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
going to go.
That's all we got for you guys today. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe. Let us know in the comments what you want to hear more about. We're your willing servants.
Amen.
In the Lord.
Bye.
Bye.